Hey there friends and enemies, JoPa here again, and today we got a bunch of previews for Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2, and the game is looking absolutely tremendous so far. I actually think it could be a potential Game of the Year nominee from what we've seen. Unfortunately, I didn't get hands-on with it myself, and I also think that the game won't appeal to everyone. I do think there are some people where the purchase at full price might not be worth it based on the amount of content we're getting. So I'm going to jump into all that and do a quick roundup of everything we did learn today. So first and foremost, the gameplay looks incredibly fun. It looks varied. There's a lot of different weapons to use, from melee to guns, as well as a bunch of different enemies to fight as well, including mini bosses and full bosses. The game does rely a lot more on parrying than I had anticipated, especially once you get to a harder difficulty level, because it does look like keeping your shield up, your health up at all times is going to be vital when you're getting swarmed by enemies big and small. So I think that's something to keep in mind. If you're not worried about tackling the higher difficulties, that might not matter as much, but it is something that I think players who are looking to challenge themselves can look forward to, which I think is a good thing ultimately. Now, the game can be fully played solo from the campaign as well as the missions after the campaign ends. There are 6 of them, I believe, that are going to be there at launch. It's not fully confirmed, but that's what's been suggested by a lot of the previewers, and that's fine. I think it's not a crazy amount of content, because this is where I think it might lose some people overall. The campaign is going to be between 10 to 12 hours. Now, this will vary widely, I think, depending on what difficulty you tackle it on, but also if you play it solo with bots as teammates versus playing it with friends, it might go a little bit quicker if you're all synergizing together. And then you get into the post-campaign missions, which are between 30 minutes to an hour, again, depending on if you're solo, how hard you are tackling the challenges, what difficulty level you are, and all that kind of good stuff. So if you get 15 hours base content from the game, it might not be worth it. But for those people who want to really invest in the game, one, there should be more free post-campaign missions after the game drops that'll launch at a later date, which is nice. You can also repeat those missions to level up your different classes. Again, when you want to perfect that and then tackle increasing difficulty, say you want to go from level 1 difficulty to level 2 and then level 2 to level 3. Level 3, which I heard is very, very challenging. Some of the previewers didn't even get a chance to finish it because of how tough it was, especially if you're trying to do it solo. That means that if you like the replayable aspect, then you're going to get a lot out of this game. You're also going to get more out of it if you do engage in the PvP, which might not be this hyper-competitive 6v6, but could be a ton of fun and a nice alternative for some other PvP games we have out there right now, insofar as that it's not going to be anything over the top, but it will be just a pure carnage blast, which I think is a good niche to have for a game like this. And so if you want to play the campaign and the post-campaign missions and the PvP, and you want to replay those post-campaign missions, you're probably going to get your 60 to 100 hours out of the game and just have fun playing it. The gameplay, again, looks like it's going to be an absolute blast. But if you're someone who's only in it for the story, who will play through the post-campaign missions one time and then not really engage in PvP, spending full price on this game might not be worth it. So I definitely want to put that warning out there, because I do feel like there are people who will purchase Space Marine 2 who ultimately will be disappointed. Now, if you're like me, I think this game looks absolutely tremendous, and the gameplay looks like so much fun that replaying content isn't going to be a problem. Sometimes it feels like that content is boring because the gameplay loop just isn't enjoyable, whereas with something like this, with the ability to change up your classes that you're running, the ability to change the weapons that you're using, all of that makes it so that way you are really altering how the different missions ultimately feel. Not only that, but you may want to replay the campaign missions multiple times, especially in co-op with your friends. Maybe you're helping someone get through the campaign missions. Maybe you're looking for things that you might have missed the first time and really engaging with the story, or trying to tackle those missions on a higher difficulty once again. And I think all of that kind of summarizes the difference in the types of players who may or may not enjoy this game ultimately. And for some, it's not going to be worth it. For others, it absolutely is. I know for me, I'm locked in. This is going to be a day one purchase for me. It looks like just visually, it's tremendous. We've seen the way that it runs. It looks absolutely awesome in the gameplay, and I like the backdrops that they have with this game. It really does feel like you're going to be fully immersed in the world of Warhammer 40K, which again I think is incredibly awesome, and something that other games in the 40K universe have done to a degree, but this is taking it to a next level, and I think that's very, very important. And so ultimately, the previews have showed off a lot. I think the fun factor is something that every preview that I've seen has emphasized. One of them mentioned that they played for 20 hours, but only played one campaign mission and then 2 of the post-campaign missions, and they played that for 20 hours. And so that just kind of tells you that it is addictive in a way. It's going to get you hooked on the gameplay loop, and I think that's something that not every game can say that. Some games will have a ton of content, but not really reasons to give you to engage with all of it, whereas other games are tighter package, but the gameplay loop is so satisfying that ultimately you can enjoy yourself with it, regardless of if there's hundreds of hours worth of things to find out and play and everything like that. So I'll be very curious to see what the wider community thinks overall. I do feel like the previews have been pretty resoundingly positive. They only got, like I mentioned, a small sample of the game. We haven't got hands-on with PvP. That's really where I wish we would have gotten some sort of beta. I do think because there isn't an abundance of content, the reason they didn't do a beta is it would feel like there's even less to engage with once you got hands-on with the game. And we know how people are in a beta. They will grind it to the point that they are absolutely sick of the game. And so you kind of want to avoid that, especially a game that's not a live service aspect. There's not going to be a ongoing loop of new content that's continuously coming out. We will get some free DLC down the line, but that's not going to be as much as something like a Destiny or other live service games. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I hope this is a fair assessment of what we've seen so far. I can't wait to get hands-on so I can do a full review of the game once it does launch, and I think this is going to be one of my favorite games of 2024, just based on everything we've seen so far. I hope I'm not wrong in that. But my name is JoPa. If you want to see more Space Marine 2 content from me, like the video, subscribe. Helps me out tremendously. Have a good one. I'll catch you all later.